9 minutes after my divorce, I called my dad. Gather everyone. Friday, noon, the shop floor. Every person Susan Whitmore ever planted in this company, standing in that room. I want 40 witnesses watching when I take it back. I'd waited 15 months to say that. I'd paid for it, too, in sleep and savings and the slow death of a marriage I once believed in. My name is Fiona Calloway, 36. I grew up doing homework in my dad's mechanical contracting shop, learned to read contracts before I learned to drive. I became the company's general counsel, the careful one, the one who reads warranty cards for pleasure. I color-coded contract files by year and found comfort in compliance checklists. Then I met Grant Whitmore. His mother, Susan, chaired galas, wore pearls at 4 in the afternoon, and knew every powerful name in the county. At our first dinner, she smiled and said, "Practical. That's exactly what this family needs." I thought it was a compliment. It was an acquisition notice. We married in 2017. Susan toasted, "Family takes care of family." 6 weeks later she called about her cousin Robbie, who was supposedly good with numbers. I forwarded his resume with a simple note that read, "Family referral." Robbie was polite, unremarkable, the perfect test balloon. Over the next 3 years, 27 Whitmore-connected hires quietly spread through purchasing, HR, operations, and accounting. A scheduling clerk named Maria Reyes once brought me a lasagna when my mother passed away. I never forgot the kindness, or which side she eventually reported to. She was the one face I couldn't reduce to a number. The other 26 blurred together into a pattern. Maria didn't. When she smiled at me across the break room, I smiled back, and neither of us said what we both knew. One day I would have to choose between her job and my father's company. Our new HR director, Marcy Holt, came highly recommended by Susan. During one leadership meeting, I pointed out the growing number of Whitmore-connected employees and how every important decision somehow benefited Susan's side of the family. Marcy laughed. "Fiona reads warranty cards for fun. She sees patterns in the wallpaper." Grant squeezed my hand under the table. A silent message. "Don't." So I didn't. For 15 months, I didn't. Then the bid for the Riverside Hospital expansion landed on my desk. $14 million. The biggest contract in my father's company's history. We lost it by just $87,000. The winning bidder was Whitmore Construction Partners, a shell company incorporated only 3 weeks before the deadline. Its registered agent was Susan Whitmore's personal accountant. Its mailing address belonged to a post office box opened by Robbie. I sat alone in my office at 11 that night with incorporation documents spread across my desk like evidence from a crime scene. I hadn't married into a family. I'd married into a slow-motion hostile takeover. I didn't call Grant. I called my father. My father, Daniel Calloway, built his company from a single pickup truck and a reputation for always showing up on time. His hands looked older than his face. Scarred knuckles from decades on construction sites, a wedding ring worn dull from years of honest work. I drove to his house just after midnight and laid every document across his kitchen table. The shell company filings. The leaked bid. The organizational chart with 27 names circled in red. He didn't speak for 90 seconds. When he finally looked up, his eyes were full. Not crying. Just full. "She sent lasagna," he whispered. His voice cracked on the word. He was pointing at Maria's name. He had hired Maria himself years before the Whitmores ever entered our lives. She had always been one of his people. They had simply claimed her. "They took her from me too," he whispered. My father had spent 30 years building a family inside those walls. Dispatchers. Welders. Office clerks. Project managers. People who celebrated birthdays together and attended each other's funerals. Susan Whitmore had walked into that family and slowly turned them into strangers. He wiped his face with the back of one scarred hand. Then he asked the only question that mattered. What do we do? I looked him in the eye. We tell everyone. Together. In one room. For 2 days, I didn't fire a single person. I built a file for each of the 27, who signed what, who knew, who had simply been used. My attorney froze every Whitmore-connected account. I drafted one restructuring order that would end this the moment I read it aloud, in front of the people it had been hidden from. Friday, noon. The shop floor filled the way it did for Christmas parties and retirement send-offs, except this time nobody was smiling. Dispatchers. Welders. Office staff. My father standing beside me. 40 faces, some of them about to learn what the other 26 already knew. I put the incorporation documents on the screen behind me. The shell company. The accountant. The post office box. I read the 27 names out loud, one at a time, starting with Marcy. The wallpaper got interesting, I told her. She didn't laugh. Robbie tried the family card in front of everyone. Fiona, we're cousins. Cousins don't secretly create competing companies using your aunt's accountant, I said, and slid his severance letter across the table where the whole room could see him sign it. Then I called the last name. Maria Reyes. The room went quiet. She stepped forward, hands shaking, certain she was about to lose the job that had outlasted a marriage. You're not one of the 27, I said. You were my father's employee before you were ever theirs. And you brought me lasagna when nobody else remembered my mother had died. She cried. I cried. In front of 40 witnesses, I asked her to stay and help us rebuild. My father shook her hand himself. By the end of that hour, 26 people were gone, and everyone left in that room had watched it happen together instead of hearing it secondhand as a rumor. Susan called my phone 6 times that afternoon. I watched every call ring until voicemail, the same way they'd let my father's company ring unanswered for 3 years. Within weeks, the shell company dissolved. Riverside Hospital reopened the bidding after discovering irregularities in the original process. We submitted a new proposal. This time, we won. The Whitmores hadn't simply failed to steal my father's company. They'd exposed themselves so completely, in front of the very people they'd tried to quietly replace, that no one in the county wanted to do business with them again. Susan's charity invitations disappeared. Grant quietly moved to Charlotte. Maria still works with us today. She manages the scheduling department now, with 4 people reporting to her, and she still brings lasagna whenever someone loses a family member. Last year, when my father had a minor heart scare, Maria reached the hospital before I did. Some lineages are built on blood. Others are built on carefully constructed fraud. My former in-laws tried to build their legacy inside my father's company one friendly hire at a time. And they almost succeeded. Because they believed I was too polite, too careful, too quiet, too busy reading warranty cards to fight back. They misunderstood what happens when careful people finally reach their limit. We don't break. We reorganize. And we do it in the open, where everyone can see. Welcome to Lineage of Lies, where quiet strength wins the day. If you've ever been underestimated, told you were too careful, too quiet, too small to fight back. Hit record on your own story before someone else writes it for you, then drop a comment with the name of the person who eventually learned they were wrong. Subscribe to Lineage of Lies, because the stories that shape us are often the ones we're finally brave enough to tell.